Hey there, it's Mark Pfeiffer, and today I'd like to talk to you about understanding crime for real estate investments. So, here I'm looking at different crime areas in Atlanta, and the website that I'm using is the Atlanta Police Department's website. And what you'll find is that each city has kind of their own way of keeping track of the crime data for certain areas. Here is Atlanta's, and you'll see they'll list. You have an ability to click on which crimes you want to see pop up and then select a start date. For example, we could do January 1st to today. You click on a bunch of these. Now with all these different categories of crime like aggravated assault, auto theft, homicide, larceny, non-residential burglary, and so forth, I encourage you to research what these mean, so it'll give you a better understanding of some of them aren't as big as others, but a homicide is definitely a big issue. If you see any homicides, that is probably a bad area. So this kind of points out which locations the crime occurred, so it gives you an idea of which areas could be worse than others. Now going back to here, what you'll see too is it'll give you crime statistics over time, so you can see how in 2012 it compared to last year in terms of what the change was. Green, of course, is a positive thing, red is negative. So, did that for all the zones that they had there. And what I really wanted to touch base on now is the question of why does crime occur? Who resorts to crime? Why do people actually resort to crime? So, my thinking is that the people that resort to crime are those who they don't have a job, they have no savings or assets, they have no reputation, they're hungry and they need to eat, they've got bills to pay, and they don't have anyone providing support to them, whether that be the government or, all these things could be a kid, but if a kid has a parent that's taking care of them, then they don't really need to resort to crime because they're being fed, they have things taken care of for them. So when someone's hungry, that's kind of a sign for them that they need to survive, so they're going to do whatever it takes for them to go out there and survive. And if that means crime, then so be it, it's crime. Why is crime bad for real estate investors? What do you think? Well, the reason I think it's bad is that, first of all, it'll lower the attractiveness of a location that your property could be in. I guess this question sort of depends, right? If you own property in the area, then it's bad because that area becomes less desirable because people are afraid of the crime there. They don't want to live there, and then as a result, demand goes down. And when your demand goes down, the rents that you can get go down as well, and that'll impact your net operating income, and your cap rate as well will decrease. Now, crime could be a good thing for an investor who's looking to get into a market if they know that a major employer is going to come in, going to provide a lot of jobs to those who are unemployed. That way, those people that are unemployed can work in order to get income, in order to pay for their food to eat, and they don't have to resort to crime for that. So that would lower the crime rate, increase the attractiveness of the location, and you can get in at a very low price point because the whole perspective of that area is bad. Now, it takes time for a whole perception of an area to change, but definitely having a major employer come in to hire a lot of those workers is a good thing in the right direction. So here's two scenarios. Person A, he's got $1 million in the bank, he's got assets, he has no job, he's unemployed, and he has a great reputation. Person B has $15 in the bank. They don't have a job, they have no assets, they really have no one to fall back on, and they have no support. So who do you think is going to become a thief and steal? Scenario 2, Market A. It's got an unemployment rate of 50%. Market B has an unemployment rate of 44%. So which market do you think is likely to have the higher crime rate? So another takeaway from all this is the question of how would you make a population docile? Let's put yourself in the perception or perspective of the government. The government really doesn't want people to revolt against it, because if they revolt against the government, the employees in the government could lose their jobs, which would then put them unemployed, and then it would put them in a bad situation. So they kind of want to keep the population docile. So how do you keep it docile? Well, You make sure that everyone's fed, and you make sure that people have their minds occupied, whether that be through work, or back in the Roman days, they created the Colosseum that kept the masses distracted from the bigger issues at hand. And the way that Colosseum analogy applies today is you have things like video games, we have TV, we have the news, which keeps people's minds occupied so they cannot think of, well, what's the government doing? Are they doing a good job? Are they stealing my money? It keeps them preoccupied from that. So I hope that this has been helpful for you in getting an understanding of a little bit of how crime works and how an investor thinks about crime when they're investing in real estate. And that also you should check into the different terminologies of crime to get a better understanding of that and understand which kinds of crimes are worse than others. All right, great. Well, if you have any questions, feel free to post them in the comments box below. And as always, I'm here to help you understand real estate investments. Love sharing the knowledge that I know. I highly recommend playing the board game Cashflow 101 and 202 in order to kind of get a grasp of the financial terminology and language. And yeah, have an awesome day. Till next time.